Hi, I'm Lavana. At my promotion party, the one night that was supposed to be mine, my sister looked me dead in the eye, stopped me from pouring a glass of wine, and said, "You're not allowed to drink." Everyone laughed, but they didn't know she was sleeping with my husband, that she was stealing from me, that the pregnancy she bragged about wasn't a miracle, it was a weapon. They didn't see the emails, the rumors, the fake accusations that nearly cost me my job. They just saw the fun sister. At my promotion party, my sister stopped me pouring wine and said, "You're not allowed to drink." The rooftop was glowing with that perfect kind of spring dusk, warm air, soft breeze, and string lights that made everything feel like a scene out of a romantic movie. For once, it felt like the spotlight was on me. I had worked 12 years at that company, climbed from admin assistant to HR director, and tonight was the first time I let people celebrate me. Not the team, not the company. Me. People clinked glasses and laughed. My boss gave a short toast. My assistant brought out cupcakes with edible glitter. Dorian stood beside me with his arm around my waist, sipping from his wine, smiling at the right times. I told myself that was enough. I reached for the bottle of wine, something French I couldn't pronounce, and tilted it toward my glass. That's when Serafina said it, loud enough for every single conversation to die out around us. "You're not allowed to drink." At first, I thought she was joking, some weird overprotective sister thing, but she was standing there, tall, flawless, wearing a smug expression and that designer jumpsuit she never stops mentioning she didn't pay full price for. People laughed awkwardly. I looked around, still holding the bottle mid-air, my mouth slightly open. She smiled wider. "I mean, maybe Lavana's not telling us something?" She turned to Dorian. "You know, if she's planning to have a baby, this wouldn't exactly be the best time to start drinking." There it was. The air shifted. Someone chuckled nervously. Someone else murmured, "Oh, wow!" I placed the wine bottle back on the table, calmly, like my hand wasn't starting to shake, like my face wasn't hot with a rage I hadn't felt since we were kids. I looked at Dorian. He shrugged. "I shit you not." He shrugged. And that's when something inside me cracked a little. I smiled too. Not because it was funny, because it was familiar. Because Serafina always finds a way to do this, to cut me down without making it look like she's cutting me down. I smiled and nodded like a good hostess, like a good wife, like a good sister. The rest of the party is a blur. I smiled at people. I hugged coworkers. I cut the damn cupcakes. But inside, my stomach twisted. My mind wouldn't stop spinning that moment in a loop. Later that night, I sat on the couch next to Dorian while he scrolled through his phone. I brought up the thing we hadn't talked about in months. "So, have you thought any more about starting a family?" I asked, trying to keep it light. He didn't look up. "Babe, I told you, I'm not in the headspace for that right now. There's too much going on." Right, too much going on. He kept scrolling. I turned to him. "You know, the way Serafina brought it up tonight felt intentional." He sighed. "That's just how she is. You know that. God, if I had $1 for every time someone excused someone's bullshit with, 'That's just how they are,' I'd be on a yacht somewhere far away from this conversation." "She's my sister, Dorian," I said. "Not yours." He looked at me finally. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing." I stood up. "Never mind." I got ready for bed in silence. And as I laid there, staring at the ceiling fan spinning in slow circles, something deeper than anger settled into my chest. It wasn't just tonight. It was 100 nights before it, 1,000 slights, 1,000,000 dismissals I'd swallowed like bad medicine. All those times I let her interrupt me, undermine me, make everything about her. And now, this? She made my promotion party, my one night, about a pregnancy that didn't even exist. She weaponized my silence. And Dorian, he didn't protect me. He didn't even blink. Maybe Serafina always knew how he felt. Maybe I was the only one still pretending I didn't. But the photo I saw on his phone the next morning, that changed everything. I hadn't meant to snoop, I wasn't that kind of wife. But when Dorian left his phone face up on the nightstand and jumped in the shower, the screen lit up, and instinct took over. A message previewed itself like it was meant for me to see. Serafina. Too much. I swiped before I could think. There she was, draped in a silk robe, hair damp, the kind of smirk that wasn't meant for a sibling's husband. The bathroom steam still lingered in the air, and the caption felt like a whisper straight into my spine. My hands turned cold. I didn't breathe. I locked the phone and set it back down, careful to place it exactly where it was. I walked into the kitchen and turned on the coffee machine with the calm of someone walking toward a storm, not away from it. I said nothing when he stepped out of the shower. He kissed my cheek. I didn't lean in. He made small talk. I nodded. My mind was already somewhere else, backtracking, connecting dots, seeing old moments under new light. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after. 2 days later, while Dorian was out running errands, I opened our joint bank account on my laptop. I wasn't even looking for anything specific, just following a thread I couldn't ignore anymore. And there it was, month after month, like clockwork, $1,200 transferred to Serafina. Notes like helping out, for her move, family support. For 6 months. He never mentioned it, not once. When Dorian walked in and saw me staring at the laptop, he paused mid-step. Everything okay? I smiled. Yeah, just checking our expenses. He came up behind me, glanced at the screen, then casually reached for the remote and changed the subject. You want to order Thai tonight? I nodded. Inside, a wall came down. This wasn't a bad moment or a misunderstanding. This was a pattern. He wasn't just lying, he was comfortable lying. And she? She was counting on me never noticing. That night, I sat at the dining table after Dorian fell asleep. I opened a blank document. I started typing dates, transaction IDs, notes. Not for him, for me. To remind myself I wasn't imagining this. My mind reeled back through every moment I'd brushed off before. The way Serafina announced her engagement at my wedding reception. 4 months later, the engagement was off. The time she posted a photo of herself wearing the exact same outfit I'd worn the week before, tagging it #StyleInspo. How she volunteered to help with our anniversary party, only to turn it into a networking event for herself. And now she was inserting herself into my marriage, into my future, into my life, like I was just another stage she could steal. The memory of Dorian's shrug at the party replayed in my head, like a line from a bad play. That's just how she is. How many times had I accepted that excuse? How many times had I let people tell me I was too sensitive, too serious, too dramatic? Maybe I wasn't overreacting. Maybe I'd just been conditioned to underreact. Because the truth was, this wasn't new, it was calculated. She knew how Dorian felt about starting a family. Of course she did. That comment at the party wasn't random. It was timed, precise, like every move Serafina made. And Dorian, well, his silence was starting to sound a lot like permission. But if I was going to survive this, I needed more than gut feelings and assumptions. I needed proof. I needed the whole truth, not his version, not hers. The truth I could hold in my hands. And then Noelle found the flight ticket. That's when I stopped second-guessing myself. She came by that Saturday with a box of books she thought I'd want. We were sitting at the kitchen island, drinking coffee that had gone cold, when she mentioned finding something odd while cleaning out the spare room. It was tucked inside one of the old cookbooks, she said, casually pulling out a folded paper. Guess who took a little trip to New York last fall? I unfolded it slowly. My eyes scanned the details. Dorian W. Ellis. One way, Austin to JFK. Departed 4 months ago. Return flight, none listed. I froze. Serafina had posted that same weekend on Instagram. Her at a boutique hotel in Manhattan, claiming she was on a self-care solo retreat. There was a bathtub shot, a fluffy robe, room service for one. Noelle watched my face. You didn't know, did you? I shook my head. I couldn't even speak. I looked at the ticket again, like it might explain itself. But the dates, the timing, they said enough. This wasn't just some recent entanglement. They had a timeline, a setup, a secret routine. It wasn't an affair. It was an arrangement. I felt the world tilt slightly, not like falling, like waking up and realizing you've been standing in the wrong house, calling it home. Later that week, I visited Margot, Dorian's mother. I told myself it was for closure, for grounding. Maybe a part of me hoped she'd see what was happening and say, "We've got your back." But the air in her living room was cold before I ever sat down. Her smile was thin, forced. She poured tea like we were at a garden club. Then, out of nowhere, she said it. "You know, I just think it's strange you never told Dorian about the abortion." I blinked. "Excuse me?" She tilted her head, almost like she was confused by my reaction. "Well, that's what Serafina told us. That you terminated a pregnancy years ago and never said anything. She thought Dorian deserved to know." My skin went numb. That wasn't gossip. That wasn't tea. That was a wound. A private, painful decision from a life before Dorian, before I even met him. And now it was being passed around his family like a fun fact at brunch. I stood up. My chair barely made a sound, but everything in the room shifted. "I think I should go," I said calmly. "Levana," Margot began, but I didn't let her finish. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry in the car. I drove home in silence, my fingers wrapped so tight around the steering wheel that my knuckles faded to white. That night, I opened my laptop. Again. I started a folder. I named it Timeline. I gathered everything, screenshots of bank transfers, the photo from Serafina, the boarding pass, the clipped quote from Margot. I began noting dates, tracking conversations, saving links. Each piece wasn't enough on its own, but together they painted something I couldn't unsee. This wasn't petty. This wasn't family drama. This was coordinated, calculated. She didn't just want Dorian. She wanted my credibility, my peace, my voice. I remembered her toast at our wedding. "Here's to Levana, the calm one, the steady one, the one who always keeps it together." It used to sound like a compliment. Now I could hear the bite underneath. She'd been framing me from the beginning. Every comment, every gesture, every time she called herself the fun sister. She didn't want to be my sister. She wanted to be me. But I wasn't going to keep playing her game in silence. This wasn't sibling rivalry. This was a campaign. Then came the dinner. The night Serafina announced it. The baby. It was supposed to be a regular Sunday dinner at Thatcher and Margot's house. Roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, a glass of wine or two. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud. Just family. I wore a navy dress and brought a bottle of wine, even though I didn't feel much like drinking. I hadn't seen Dorian all day. He said he had errands. He looked tired when he arrived, like he'd just run a marathon in his mind. He kissed my cheek like a stranger and sat across the table. The food was warm. The conversation was dull, safe, until it wasn't. Serafina tapped her spoon against her glass. That sharp little clink. I remember it echoing louder than it should have. "I just want to say something," she said, standing with a glowing smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's been an emotional few months, and I didn't want to say anything until I was sure. But I'm pregnant." The room froze. Thatcher put his fork down slowly. Noelle blinked, confused. Margot gasped, one hand to her chest. And then Serafina looked right at me, straight through me, like I was made of glass. "And Dorian is the father." I didn't move. Someone let out a sound, maybe a laugh, maybe a cough. Then all the air seemed to get sucked from the room. My hands were resting in my lap. I felt them go completely still. My breath stayed locked somewhere beneath my ribs. I heard cutlery hit plates. A glass tipped over. Margot whispered something I couldn't make out. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even blink. Because in that moment, my body did what it always did when the ground dropped beneath it. It shut down. And Dorian? He didn't deny it. Not a single word. Not a protest. Not a correction. He just sat there, looking away. Thatcher pushed back his chair with a loud scrape and left the table. No one followed him. Margot's lips trembled. Dorian! Please tell me this isn't true. Dorian stared at his plate. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. I didn't look at him. Noelle reached under the table, gently squeezed my hand. I don't know if she was trying to ground me or stop me from doing something reckless. Either way, it didn't matter. I couldn't feel my hand anyway. My mind detached. Everything around me slowed, like someone had taken a remote control and hit pause in the middle of chaos. In front of everyone, my in-laws, my sister, my husband, they shattered whatever was left of my dignity. She didn't just take Dorian, she took my voice. I stood quietly, walked out of the room without a word. No one followed. Maybe they didn't know how. Maybe they were frozen too. I got in my car and just sat there, hands on the wheel, not driving, not crying, just breathing. I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to be anywhere familiar. So I drove. Aimlessly, no destination, just motion. I passed the bakery where we bought our wedding cake, the bookstore where I found the card Dorian wrote me on our first anniversary. All of it felt like props from someone else's life. I pulled over near the lake and stared at the water for what could have been minutes or hours. And in the stillness, something inside me began to shift. I whispered aloud, I've spent years being quiet. Then I looked down at my phone, scrolled to a number I hadn't used in a while. Jolene. I pressed call. When she answered, I didn't ask how she was. I didn't ask about her kids or her new job. I only said one thing. Tell me what she did to you, I said. Start from the beginning. Jolene didn't hesitate. We met at a little coffee shop tucked into the corner of a quiet street, the kind with chipped mugs and jazz playing low over the speakers. She looked tired, not the kind of tired from work or kids, but the kind that lives in your bones when you've carried too much for too long. Reimbursement. Next thing I knew, I was on probation. My stomach turned. She told HR I was having an emotional breakdown and accused me of threatening a coworker. I didn't even know about the complaint until they called me in. I didn't interrupt. I let her keep going. She did the same thing to another girl who started dating her ex, spread rumors, nasty stuff, said she was sleeping with a manager to get promoted. The girl ended up transferring departments just to escape the whispers. Jolene looked up at me, eyes sharp and sad. She doesn't just want to win, Lavana. She wants to erase people, make them irrelevant. That's what she's doing to you. I nodded slowly. It fit too well. The timeline, the tactics, the way Serafina smiled while twisting the knife. And just like clockwork, the next hit landed. This time, at work. My manager, Natalie, called me into her office 2 days later. She looked uncomfortable, like she'd rather be anywhere else. Someone submitted a formal complaint, she said, sliding a folder across the desk. About your conduct with junior staff. My hands were steady, but my pulse ticked louder in my ears as I opened the file. Printed emails, long ones, accusing me of being harsh, belittling, entitled. There were references to team meetings, private conversations, some real, most not. The wording was sharp, calculated, but it wasn't mine, not the tone, not the rhythm, not the way I write. And buried in the language? Little Serafina-isms, phrases she used too often, words she once teased me for not knowing. Natalie said, "We're required to look into it, but I wanted to give you a heads up first." I nodded. Thank you. I left the office with the folder under my arm and my jaw tight enough to ache. That walk back to my desk felt longer than it should have, like I was dragging the weight of everything I hadn't said. I sat down, opened my inbox, and quietly started forwarding emails to my personal account. She wanted my marriage. She wanted my family. Now she wanted my career. Number not this. That evening, I went to Serafina's apartment. She opened the door, wearing a cashmere cardigan and that same polished grin she always put on when she was ready to charm the devil. "Well, if it isn't the family favorite," she said sweetly, "to what do I owe the pleasure?" I walked in without being invited. She raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you're in a mood." I turned to face her. "You've done this to other people, Serafina. I know. I spoke to Jolene." Her smile didn't flinch, but her eyes sharpened. "You've spread rumors, planted lies, sabotaged jobs. It's not even about Dorian, is it? It's about control." She laughed lightly. "Poor Lavana, still pretending you matter." I stepped closer, calm, measured. "Keep pushing. You'll find out just how much I matter." She tilted her head, the corners of her mouth twitching. I didn't wait for her to respond. I walked out with more certainty than I had felt in weeks. She wouldn't stop unless someone stopped her. That week, the email landed in HR's inbox, and it was nuclear. I was in the middle of prepping for a one-on-one with a new hire when Natalie, my department head, knocked on the door and asked if we could talk privately. Her expression was clipped, tight around the jawline. She handed me a sealed envelope and didn't sit down. "There's been a formal complaint," she said, eyes flicking away. "Multiple, actually." Inside was a printed packet, at least 10 pages thick. Anonymous allegations, claims of emotional intimidation, retaliation, and favoritism. Accusations that I had bullied younger team members, manipulated promotion reviews, and abused my position. Each claim more absurd than the last, and disturbingly detailed. Someone had forged entire email chains, even included fake screenshots of messages I'd supposedly sent, dripping with hostility and arrogance. The voice in those emails wasn't mine, but it was close enough to raise doubt. "She's trying to make them believe I'm a monster," I whispered. Natalie folded her arms. "Until we finish a review, you'll need to take a leave of absence." It felt like the ground tilted. But I didn't argue. I nodded, gathered my things. As I walked out, heads turned. A few coworkers avoided eye contact. One offered a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. By the time I got to the parking lot, the silence felt louder than anything Serafina had ever said. She wasn't just trying to ruin me, she was trying to replace me. And the worst part? If I didn't do something now, she just might succeed. 3 nights later, Thatcher called. He said he wanted to host a family dinner, a peace offering, to ease tensions. His voice was measured, careful, like he was testing the temperature before stepping into water. I said yes. Not because I believed him, but because I needed the table set. When I arrived, I brought a folder, a flash drive, and someone who had nothing left to lose. Jolene. Margot opened the door, and I could see Noelle in the background, nervously adjusting the placemats. Dorian was already seated, back straight, face unreadable. Serafina sat beside him, legs crossed, smiling like this was a reunion and not a reckoning. We skipped pleasantries. I asked to speak first. Then I opened the folder. Bank statements, weekly transfers from Dorian to Serafina, screenshots of messages, the plane ticket to New York, the emails she had sent in my name, planted, manipulative. And finally, the signed statement from Bryony, their former roommate, who'd once been burned by Serafina too. I slid it across the table to Thatcher. The room went quiet except for the sound of paper turning and breathing, becoming uneven. Dorian shifted in his seat. Serafina's fingers tensed on her wine glass. Thatcher looked up after 5 minutes that felt like 5 years. "You two disgust me," he said. Serafina's smile twitched, then disappeared. Dorian dropped his gaze. Margot's lip quivered. Noelle pulled out her phone, gently tapping it to start recording. Serafina noticed, and her mask cracked for the first time. "You're all just jealous," she said, standing abruptly. "You always have been. I was always better than her, more fun, more likable. Don't pretend otherwise." Thatcher didn't flinch. "You're nothing now." And for the first time, she didn't have a comeback. But Serafina wasn't finished. She was just getting started. Within days of the family dinner, the fallout reached my workplace again. But this time, from a very different direction. My attorney sent HR a detailed response, complete with a digital forensics report. The IT specialist had traced the IP addresses used to send the fake emails. Every one of them pointed back to a device previously logged into our home network, one I hadn't used in over a year, one that Serafina borrowed when hers died last fall. I watched Natalie read through the report in silence. This time, her voice was steady when she said, "We're reversing the administrative leave for now." The tide was finally shifting. HR didn't apologize directly, but their tone softened. I could tell they knew. And Serafina? She panicked. She started calling people, old coworkers, distant family, even mutual friends, trying to clear the air. Her version of damage control sounded something like this. People love to twist things when they're jealous. She's always been sensitive, you know? I didn't mean for any of this to go so far. Then came the vague Instagram post, a selfie with dim lighting and the caption, "Sometimes the ones who smile the biggest are hiding the deepest scars. Be kind." She wasn't subtle. She never had been. But she was desperate. And that's when she became reckless. That Friday, my personal laptop started glitching. I thought it was nothing. A restart, maybe a quick virus scan. But then a friend texted me a link, a burner blog, anonymous, half-baked, full of vague accusations and out-of-context images. And right there, in between broken grammar and dramatic headlines, were private photos. Photos from my phone. Photos no one had access to but me. Moments of me laughing with friends, screenshots of messages from years ago, spliced together to look like I was hiding something. Then came the texts, sent to my boss, a coworker, even Noelle. "Did you know Lavana was seeing someone behind her husband's back? Not surprised. She's always had a reputation. Check her old job history, ask why she really left." It was frantic, sloppy, but it worked, just enough to stir doubt. Noelle called me. Her voice was tight. "She's spiraling," she said, "and she wants you to spiral too." I sat at my desk, staring at the chaos, and I felt it, righteous fury. Not because she was winning, but because she thought I would crumble now, after everything. So I did the one thing she never expected. I went public. I recorded a video, calm, composed. Just me, sitting on my couch, speaking directly into the lens. I've worked in HR for over a decade. I've helped employees through burnout, grief, workplace bullying. I never thought I'd face all three in my own life, at the same time, and from people I once called family. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. I ended with this. Silence isn't grace, and survival isn't weakness. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is tell the truth, even when your voice shakes. I uploaded it to LinkedIn and closed the app. By the next morning, it had nearly 200,000 views. Messages flooded in. From strangers, from former coworkers, even from HR, offering quiet support behind the scenes. Thatcher texted me later that night. "You didn't just survive this, you led through it." And then, right on cue, Dorian showed up at my door with flowers and regret. He stood on the porch like he belonged there, like the last 6 months hadn't happened. The bouquet was his usual choice. Lilies, my mother's favorite, not mine. A detail that used to make me smile. Now, it just told me how little he really knew me. "I messed up," he said, voice tight. "I was confused. She got in my head. I didn't know what I was doing." I didn't respond. "She's toxic, Lavana. You know that. She twisted things. I see it now." I let him speak. Let him circle his guilt like a man drowning in the shallow end. "I never stopped loving you," he whispered. "I was just lost." I tilted my head, not out of sympathy, but to really look at him. For the first time in a long while, I saw the boy he still was, not the man he never became. "No one forced you, Dorian," I said evenly. "No one made you lie, or cheat, or stay silent while she humiliated me in front of our family." His eyes welled, but I stayed dry. I had cried all my tears long before this moment. "You didn't just choose her," I said. "You erased me." He reached for my hand, and I stepped back. Then I handed him the manila envelope. Inside, divorce papers, signed, dated, clean. He looked down at them like they'd burned him. "I won't fight you," he murmured. "You already did," I said. "You just lost before you realized it." I closed the door before he could say anything else. Across town, Serafina's world was folding in on itself. Thatcher cut all contact. Margot changed the locks and blocked her number. Noelle had quietly sent Bryony's written statement to the HR department that had once placed me on leave. Then came Jolene's affidavit. Legal action moved quickly. Her lawyer served Serafina at her gym. Ironic, considering it was the one place she always claimed to be centered. She tried to deny everything, of course. But the evidence was relentless. Screenshots, statements, IP logs, transactions. Her carefully curated image cracked. She was dropped from a panel she was scheduled to host. 2 of her PR clients pulled out. A whispered pause became a quiet blacklisting. She tried to disappear, to reset in another city. But reputation follows you when the wreckage is this big. And me? I didn't post about it. I didn't dance on her ashes. I simply exhaled. Because justice doesn't always wear a robe or slam a gavel. Sometimes it's just the truth, out in the open. I went back to the office once, quietly, to collect what was mine. My nameplate, my files. The cactus I kept on the windowsill. It didn't hurt, not anymore. The walls felt smaller than I remembered. My desk, less like a foundation, more like a weight I was ready to shed. I drove home, walked through the house one final time. Every photo, every pillow, every detail held something I no longer wanted to carry. That night, Noelle and Thatcher took me to dinner. They toasted me, not for surviving, but for standing tall through the storm. And as I laughed for the first time in what felt like forever, my phone buzzed. A text from Natalie. "Seattle wants to meet. Opportunity looks solid. Interested?" I stared at the screen. So I booked the flight. One way. From the window seat, I watched Austin grow smaller beneath the clouds, the skyline thinning into memory. There were no texts left to answer, no glances backward. I hadn't told Dorian I was leaving. I didn't owe him that. And Serafina? Her silence was the only gift I'd ever needed. I remembered the first time I landed in Austin all those years ago. Young, optimistic, a little naive. I had believed in beginnings, in people, in love that stayed true. But I was leaving that city not as someone broken, just someone who'd grown out of what no longer fit. The plane drifted through a patch of sunlit clouds. I closed my eyes, not to sleep, but to savor the peace. For the first time in a long time, my body wasn't bracing for the next blow. Seattle greeted me with gray skies and clean air. My new apartment was modest, tucked above a flower shop, the scent of eucalyptus and lavender seeping through the floorboards. It was quiet, blessedly quiet. I unpacked slowly, one box at a time, as if giving each item permission to start over. I found a therapist. Started jogging again. Every Sunday, I volunteered at a local nonprofit where no one knew my past. They just saw me. The HR director from my old company reached out about a consulting position, remote, flexible, familiar. I thanked her and declined. "I'm building something different now," I typed. And I meant it. One evening, I sat by the window with a pen in my hand and paper I hadn't touched since college. I wrote a letter I would never send. "Dear Serafina, you didn't win. You lost someone who could have been your sister." I paused, then kept going. "You didn't just betray blood. You wasted it. You burned every bridge thinking you'd never need to return. But I'll still be standing long after the smoke clears." I folded the letter and placed it in a box marked "Done." I slid it to the back of the closet. Some wounds never really close. but I'd stopped trying to stitch them shut. I was learning to live with the scar and not hate it for being there. One morning, I wandered into a neighborhood bookstore. The barista remembered my name after one visit. I sat by the window with a cup of herbal tea, watching rain streak down the glass. A little girl at the next table let out a sudden laugh. Pure, full, bright. I smiled. No Dorian, no Serafina, no shadows waiting behind the door. Just me. And that was enough. This isn't revenge. This is resurrection. Sometimes it's not the betrayal that breaks you. It's the silence you kept before it. For a long time, I thought staying quiet was strength. I believed being the stable one meant absorbing hurt, letting things slide, keeping the peace no matter the cost. But peace built on denial? It always collapses. Eventually, it buries you. I've learned something the hard way. Your voice is not a luxury, it's a right. And when people try to steal it, that's when you use it the loudest. If you've ever been lied to, dismissed, made to feel invisible by someone you trusted, I want you to hear this. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not alone. Healing doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's just walking away, choosing peace over explanation, signing the paper, booking the flight, telling the truth, even when it shakes your voice. That's what resurrection really is. And now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you thought would always be in your life? How did you rebuild after that? Or maybe you're still in it, still figuring it out. That's okay too. This space is for you. If this story touched you in any way, drop a 1 in the comments, or just share where you're watching from. If you didn't like it, I'm still grateful you stayed. Let me know why. I read everything, and hey, if you want more stories that go deep, that heal, that hold a mirror up to real life, hit subscribe and join us for the next chapter. Until then, be gentle with yourself. You're doing better than you think.
Hey there, I'm Beverly. Let me take you on a journey of self-discovery, heartbreak, and resilience. You see, for years, I felt invisible, stuck in the background of my own life, while my family revolved around someone else. But today, I'm standing in the light, and I want to tell you how I got here. Let's start from the beginning. I'm a 29-year-old painter living in the heart of Baltimore City, chasing my dreams one brushstroke at a time. It sounds like the kind of life people romanticize, bohemian, creative, full of inspiration. But the road here? Oh, it was anything but glamorous. Growing up, I was always just Logan's little sister. My older brother, Logan, was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. He was the football star, the straight-A student, the one everyone in the family beamed about. And me? I was there. I remember one moment so clearly. It still stings. I was in middle school, and after months of pouring my heart into a painting, I won first place at the school art fair. My hands trembled with excitement as I rushed home, my blue ribbon clutched tight. This was huge for me. Maybe, just maybe, Mom would finally see me. I burst through the front door, my smile wide. Mom, look, I won first place. She barely glanced up from her phone. That's nice, honey, she murmured. A second later, she perked up. Only not for me. Did you hear? Logan made the varsity football team. Isn't that incredible? And just like that, my moment was gone. This was how it always was. Logan this, Logan that. I love my brother. I really do. But living in his shadow? It hurt. It made me question whether I was ever enough. But things are different now. After years of feeling overlooked, I made a choice. I would carve out my own life, far from the expectations that had weighed me down. I moved to Queens, got a tiny but cozy art studio, and started selling my paintings. Little by little, people started recognizing my work. For the first time, I was being seen. And the best part? I found love. Larry. Larry is everything I never knew I needed. Kind, supportive, unwavering. He saw me in a way no one else ever had. Through all the family drama, he stood by me, reminding me that I mattered. Your mom's going to lose it when she sees you in that dress. Larry said one evening, his eyes full of warmth as we went over wedding plans. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that my wedding day would finally be the moment my mother put me first. But deep down, a familiar fear gnawed at me. So, I picked up the phone.
Hey, Mom.
Just checking to make sure you have the wedding date saved for next month. Silence. A long, heavy silence. Then she sighed.
Oh, sweetie about that.
Logan is having the grand opening for his new shop that day. I promised I'd be there to support him. My heart dropped. But, Mom, it's my wedding day. Can't you come to both? Another pause. Then, in that same dismissive tone I had heard my whole life, she said, "You know how important this is for your brother. I'm sure you understand." Understand? Understand? I swallowed the lump in my throat. For years, I had told myself the same thing. It's okay. Logan comes first, I get it. But this time, I couldn't push my feelings aside. This time, I wouldn't be invisible. So I took a deep breath, and for the first time, I chose me. You know what, Mom? I do understand. And that's exactly why I won't keep waiting for you to show up for me. And with that, I let go. My wedding is happening, with or without her. My life is moving forward, and I refuse to dim my light any longer. I am done chasing approval, because I finally see myself. And that's enough. I didn't understand. Not at all. After I hung up the phone, I just sat there, frozen, numb, staring blankly at the wall. The world outside kept moving, but inside, I felt stuck, like something had cracked inside me. An hour passed. Maybe more. Larry found me like that, curled up on the couch, lost in a daze. His warm brown eyes filled with concern as he knelt beside me. "Beverly, what's wrong?" he asked softly. I opened my mouth, but the words felt too heavy. When they finally came, they were barely above a whisper. "She's not coming, Larry. My own mother, she's going to Logan's shop opening instead." The words hung between us, raw and painful. I expected anger, maybe outrage, but Larry just pulled me into his arms, holding me like he was trying to shield me from the hurt. "Beverly, listen to me," he murmured, his voice steady, grounding me. "She's the one missing out. We're going to have a beautiful day, with or without her." I nodded, trying to believe him, trying to hold onto the love and warmth in his words. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I would never be enough for her. That no matter how much I achieved, how much love I gave, I would always be second place. As I buried my face in Larry's shoulder, a question crept into my mind like an unwelcome guest. Would I always be the overlooked daughter? The wedding day arrived and everything was perfect, or at least it should have been. The venue was stunning. The guests were buzzing with excitement, and Larry looked at me like I was his whole world. But as I stood in front of the mirror, dressed in white, my veil draping elegantly over my shoulders, a hollow feeling settled deep in my chest. Natalie, my best friend since childhood, stepped behind me, adjusting the delicate lace. "Beverly," she breathed, her voice thick with emotion, "you look absolutely stunning. Larry's going to lose it when he sees you." I forced a smile, but it didn't quite reach my eyes. "Thanks, Natalie." She caught the hesitation in my voice immediately. Her fingers gently squeezed mine. "I know," she whispered. "I know you wish she was here." I swallowed hard. She didn't even try, Natalie. She didn't even pretend it mattered. Natalie held my gaze in the mirror, her expression filled with quiet understanding. "I won't tell you it doesn't hurt. But don't let her absence ruin this for you. This day isn't about her. It's about you and Larry." I nodded, inhaling deeply. She was right. And yet, as I walked down the aisle, as I looked into Larry's loving eyes, as I said my vows, my heart still felt the weight of that empty seat in the front row. Larry must have sensed it. He squeezed my hand just before the officiant spoke the words that changed everything. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." As Larry's lips met mine, I let myself melt into the moment. This was real. This was my future. No more waiting for people who refused to see me. I was done chasing. Months passed in a blur of paintbrushes and late nights in my queen studio. My art career took off in ways I had only dreamed of. A prestigious gallery invited me to showcase my work, and my paintings started selling faster than I could create them. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was standing in my own light. Larry was ecstatic. "You're killing it, babe," he grinned, spinning me around in the kitchen one evening. "We have to celebrate." And for a while, life felt full. Whole. Like maybe, just maybe, I had finally moved on. Until one evening, when everything came crashing down. I wasn't even looking for it. I was just scrolling through my phone absentmindedly when I saw it. My mother's social media post. There she was, beaming with pride at Logan's shop opening. A week later, another post, celebrating his birthday with the whole family. Then another. And another. A random Friday night dinner. A weekend brunch. A holiday party. Every event. Every time he called. She was there. My jaw clenched as I stared at the photos, my stomach twisting in knots. Larry must have noticed because he placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "You okay?" His voice was soft but concerned. I turned to him, my hands trembling as I held up my phone. "She's there, Larry." My voice cracked. Every single time. Every single event. No hesitation. No excuses. The floodgates burst. The years of feeling unseen, unheard, unwanted. It all poured out of me. Larry didn't try to stop me. He just listened, holding me tight, letting me grieve the mother I had always wished for but never truly had. And that night, as I let my tears fall freely, I realized something. I will never be the daughter she chooses first. And maybe that's okay. Because I was done waiting to be loved the way I deserved. I had my own life, my own success, my own family with Larry. And that was enough. My hands trembled as I dialed her number. My stomach twisted with nerves, but I had held my tongue for too long. This time, I wasn't going to swallow my feelings. She answered after the second ring, her voice cheerful, as if everything was fine. "Beverly, is everything all right?"
No, Mom.
"It's not." I took a breath, trying to steady my voice, but the anger and hurt bubbled to the surface before I could stop it. "I've seen your posts. Every single event, every milestone. You were there for Logan. But you couldn't even show up to my wedding." A pause. Then an exasperated sigh. "Oh, honey, don't be so sensitive." Her voice had that familiar edge, the one she used when she thought I was making a big deal out of nothing. "You know your brother needs more support with his business. It's not personal." I clenched my jaw, my fingers gripping the phone so tight they ached. "And I didn't need support on my wedding day?" My voice cracked, years of pain lacing every word. "You've always been so independent, Beverly. I thought you'd understand." "Understand? Understand what?" "That no matter how much I achieved, how much I fought for her attention, I'd never be as important as Logan?" The realization hit like a punch to the gut. "From where I'm standing, it looks like Logan is your golden child, and I'm just an afterthought." "Beverly, you're being dramatic."
Dramatic.
That word burned. It was always the same. Whenever I called out the unfairness, whenever I let her see the pain she caused, I was the problem, not her. "You know I love you both equally," she continued, but it sounded hollow, rehearsed. I let out a bitter laugh. "Really? Because I don't feel loved equally. Not even close." She sighed again, impatient now. "Maybe when you have kids of your own, you'll understand." "Understand what?" "How to play favorites." "No thanks." Silence. Then, without another word, I hung up. My hands were shaking as I lowered the phone. My chest felt tight, like I had been carrying a weight for so long that I didn't even recognize the strain anymore. Tears burned in my eyes as Larry walked in. He took one look at me and crossed the room in an instant, pulling me into his arms. "You didn't deserve that," he murmured against my hair. "Your mom's behavior is toxic, Beverly." I exhaled shakily. "What am I supposed to do, Larry? She's still my mom." Larry pulled back just enough to meet my eyes, his expression soft but firm. "Maybe it's time to create some distance. Focus on your art. On us. You don't need that negativity." He was right. I had spent years waiting for her approval, chasing a love that never felt whole. And for what? I took a deep breath. I'm done. The words felt final.
Strong.
That night, I blocked my mom and Logan on social media. It wasn't easy. It hurt. But as soon as I did it, I felt lighter, like I had finally stopped dragging chains I was never meant to carry. The next morning, I stepped into my studio, picked up my brush, and for the first time in years, I felt free. 3 years later, life moved fast. My art took off in ways I had never imagined. My paintings were selling faster than I could create them. Galleries reached out to me, collectors wanted my work. I had made a name for myself on my own. And the best part? Larry and I were expecting our first child. For the first time in my life, I wasn't looking back. I wasn't waiting for my mother to notice me. I had built my own happiness. Then one afternoon, everything shifted again. The doorbell rang while I was painting in my studio. I wiped my hands on my apron and headed to the door, expecting a package or maybe a neighbor. But when I opened it, I froze. It was my Aunt Julia. She looked anxious, her hands clutching her purse like it was the only thing keeping her steady. "Beverly, sweetie," she said, her voice hesitant. "We need to talk." I frowned. "About what?" She glanced around nervously before stepping inside. We sat down at the kitchen table, and I watched as she fidgeted, a hint of fear in her eyes. "There's something you need to know about Logan and your mother." A cold feeling crept up my spine. "What's going on, Aunt Julia?" She sighed, then looked me straight in the eye. "Logan's business, it's not what it seems. He's been laundering money." I felt my breath hitch. Laundering money? My mother had sacrificed everything. Our relationship, my wedding day, my entire existence in her world, for this? For a fraud? I leaned back in my chair, my pulse pounding in my ears. For years, I had told myself that maybe, just maybe, there was some reason my mother always chose Logan. Some justification for why she put him first, time and time again. But there was none. And suddenly, I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't heartbroken. I was done. Larry was right. I didn't need her approval. I didn't need to fight for a place in her life anymore. I had a life, a damn good one. And as I looked down at my growing belly, I made a silent promise. My child would never know what it felt like to be second best. I would love them fully, equally, without conditions. Because I had finally learned what my mother never did. Family isn't about blood, it's about love. And I would make sure mine was nothing like hers. The room felt like it was spinning. My breath hitched, my fingers tightening around the table's edge.
"What?"
My voice came out in a whisper, barely able to push the word past my lips. "How do you know?" Aunt Julia hesitated, glancing at the door as if she was afraid someone might hear. Then, in a hushed voice, she said, "I overheard your mother on the phone." I blinked, my mind reeling. "She's involved, Beverly," Aunt Julia continued, her voice full of regret. "They've been using her college fund to finance this whole operation." My stomach twisted. "My college fund?" My voice cracked. "There's more." Her eyes filled with sadness. "Remember your wedding day? Your mother wasn't at Logan's shop opening like she said." My heart pounded. She was meeting with some very shady people, setting up new investments. I gripped the arms of my chair as a wave of nausea crashed over me. So she lied. About everything. I had spent months making peace with the fact that she chose Logan's grand opening over my wedding day. It had hurt, but I had told myself I was used to it, used to being second place. But this was so much worse. Aunt Julia reached for my hand, her fingers warm but trembling. "I'm so sorry, sweetie. I couldn't keep this from you any longer." She left soon after, giving me space to process the truth. But I just sat there, frozen. I wasn't sure how long I stayed like that, silent, motionless, drowning in the weight of my mother's betrayal. When Larry came home, he found me in the exact same spot, tears silently streaming down my face. His face darkened with concern as he rushed to my side. "Beverly, what happened?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. My chest felt so tight it hurt to breathe. Larry knelt beside me, cupping my hands in his. "Hey, talk to me." And so, with a shaky voice, I did. I poured out everything. Aunt Julia's confession, the stolen college fund, the fact that my own mother had lied straight to my face. Larry listened, his jaw clenching tighter with every word. By the time I finished, his hands had curled into fists. "They've manipulated you for years," he said, his voice low, simmering with anger. "You don't deserve this, Beverly." I looked down at my swollen belly, my hands instinctively cradling the growing life inside me.
Torn.
Conflicted. "What do we do now?" I whispered. Larry stood, pacing the room, his face set with determination. "We can't let them get away with this. It's not just about you anymore. We have to think about our child, my child." The thought settled deep inside me. This wasn't just about my own pain anymore. It was about protecting my baby from the toxic cycle that had poisoned my own life. I inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on me. "We could tip off the authorities anonymously," Larry suggested. "Let them investigate." My heart clenched. "But that's my family, Larry," I whispered, my voice breaking under the ache of betrayal. Larry knelt in front of me, taking my hands in his. "Your family?" His eyes softened. "The ones who stole from you?
Lied to you?
Prioritized themselves over you for years." I swallowed the lump in my throat. Larry wasn't wrong. My hands trembled as I picked up my phone. This was it. The moment I stopped being a victim and took control of my life. I dialed the number for the local police station, my heart pounding in my ears. A calm voice answered on the other end. "Hello, I'd like to report some suspicious financial activity." As I spoke, I felt something shift inside me, like a heavy chain being broken. A lifetime of waiting for my mother to choose me, to love me enough, was over. When I hung up, Larry pulled me into his arms. "You did the right thing, Beverly. I'm proud of you." I nodded, my vision blurred with tears. "I just hope I can live with what I've done." Larry placed a gentle hand on my stomach, his thumb brushing against my skin. "They made their choices," he said softly. "You're protecting our family, our future." And as I felt our baby kick for the first time, I knew he was right. It was time to break free. 3 years later, time flew by in a whirlwind of paint, love, and late-night baby cries. My art career continued to soar, my work displayed in galleries across the city. But none of that compared to the moment I held my daughter, Diana, for the first time. She was perfect. Larry beamed beside me, kissing my forehead. "She looks just like you, Beverly." I smiled, lost in Diana's tiny fingers as they curled around mine. I was so focused on her that I barely noticed when Larry turned up the TV in the hospital room. Then the words hit me like a freight train. "Breaking news. Local businessman Logan Thompson arrested on charges of fraud and money laundering." My head snapped up. Footage played on the screen. My brother, in handcuffs, being led away by police officers. His face, once so smug, was now pale and stunned. The weight of everything settled deep in my chest. Larry reached for my hand, squeezing gently. "You okay, babes?" I blinked, my mind swirling with too many emotions to name. I don't know. It feels surreal. Just then, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen.
Mom.
My breath caught. Larry saw the name and met my eyes. "You don't have to answer." I hesitated, staring at the screen as it kept vibrating. This woman, the one who had dismissed me, ignored me, betrayed me, was now calling me. Maybe she wanted to yell. Maybe she wanted to beg. But I didn't owe her anything. Without another thought, I silenced the call. Larry smiled softly. "You really are free now, aren't you?" I looked down at Diana, her tiny chest rising and falling as she slept in my arms. I kissed her forehead, breathing in her warmth. "I am." And for the first time in my life, I truly meant it. I paused before answering. "Beverly, thank God you picked up. It's all a big mistake. You have to help us," my mother begged, her voice shaking. "Help you how?" I asked, already knowing what she would say. "We need money for Logan's bail. And I need a place to stay. They froze all our bank accounts." Anger rose inside me. "Oh, so now you need me?" After all these years of acting like I didn't matter. Honey, please. I'm your mother. Family helps family. Family? I scoffed. You stole my college fund. You chose Logan's schemes over my wedding day. I'm sorry, Beverly. We can fix this, I promise. I looked over at Diana, sleeping peacefully in her crib.
No, Mom.
I have my own family to take care of. I can't get involved in your mess. But where will I go? What will I do? I took a deep breath. Figured out like I had to.
Goodbye, Mom.
I hung up, my hands shaking. Larry pulled me into his arms. You did the right thing, Beverly, he said softly. We can't let them drag us back into their problems. 6 years passed in a flash. Diana had grown into a lively little artist, and I was getting ready for my biggest art show yet. As I hung my last painting, Larry walked in with Diana. Mommy, it's so pretty, Diana said, her eyes full of wonder. I picked her up and kissed her cheek. Thanks, sweetie. Want to help me name this one? As Diana thought, Larry showed me his phone. Look at this. It was a news article. Logan Thompson sentenced to 16 years. Mother struggles to find work after scandal. I felt a strange mix of emotions, not sadness, not satisfaction.
Just something.
You okay? Larry asked. I nodded, looking around the gallery.
Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, I really am. Just then, people started arriving. Art critics, buyers, even some celebrities. Larry gave me a quick kiss. Go get M, babe. We'll be right here cheering for you. I caught my reflection in a mirror. The insecure, forgotten daughter was gone. In her place stood a strong artist, a loving mother, and a devoted wife. Ready, Miss Thompson? My assistant asked with a smile. I squeezed Larry's hand and ruffled Diana's hair. More than ready. Let's do this. I stepped forward to speak to the crowd. I felt nothing but gratitude for the family I chose and the bright future ahead. The bad parts of my past were behind me. As I started my speech, I knew the best was still to come. Now, let me ask you a question. If you were in Beverly's place, would you have told the police about your family's crimes? Or would you have stayed quiet, even after they treated you badly for years? This is a tough choice, choosing between family loyalty and doing the right thing. What would you do? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your opinion could start an interesting discussion. If you liked Beverly's story and want more like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more great stories to life. Thanks for watching. I'm Mary, and I met Adam in college. We got along right away. He was charming, funny, and driven. We got married soon after graduating and started building our life together. When our daughter, Amanda, was born, I was thrilled. I gave her all my love and worked hard to raise her, wanting to give her the best start in life. I believed in setting rules and teaching her discipline. Knowledge is power, I'd always tell her. Study hard, and you'll go far. Adam, however, had a different way of parenting. He'd spoil Amanda with gifts, buy her sweets, and let her do things I wouldn't allow. Come on, Mary, he'd say. Let her be a kid. It annoyed me, but I thought we balanced each other out. As Amanda got older, it was clear she was closer to Adam. She'd run to him with her problems, laugh at his jokes, and get excited when he came home. With me, it was all eye rolls and the classic yes, mom tone that teenagers have. I kept quiet, telling myself Amanda would understand my strictness came from love when she got older. But even at 18, she still sided with Adam. It hurt, but I told myself I was doing what was best for her in the long run. Despite these small issues, I felt happy. I had a successful career at a well-known clinic, a husband who could still make me laugh, and a daughter I loved, even though we had our differences. Life was good, or so I thought. One fall day, while doing laundry, everything changed. I was emptying Adam's coat pockets, expecting to find a receipt or dry cleaning ticket. Instead, I found a receipt from an expensive perfume store. The perfume listed was a pricey brand that I'd never wear. Too floral, too sweet. Adam knew I liked subtler scents. I stood there with the washing machine quietly humming in the background as my mind raced with possibilities. Was the perfume a surprise gift? But my birthday had passed and our anniversary was months away. Could it be for his mother? No, she's allergic to most perfumes. My hands shook as I took a picture of the receipt with my phone, then carefully put it back in his pocket. I needed time to think, to process this without jumping to conclusions. That evening, when Adam was in the shower, I checked his coat again, but the receipt was gone. I didn't tell anyone, not Adam or Amanda, but now that I had noticed it, I couldn't stop seeing things differently. It was like a veil had lifted, and everything seemed strange. Adam's late nights at work weren't new, but now they felt off. "Big project, honey," he'd say, kissing me on the cheek. "Don't wait up." I'd nod and smile, but inside, I was wondering who he was really meeting. Even his new haircut stood out. He'd always cared about his looks, but this style was different, more trendy, younger. When I complimented him, he just shrugged it off, saying, "Thought I'd try something new." The weekend fishing trips were the hardest. Every other Sunday, he'd grab his gear and head out saying, "The fish are really biting lately." I'd watch him drive away, wondering if he even had a fishing rod anymore. Before finding that receipt, I hadn't connected these dots. Now, they formed a picture I couldn't ignore. The thought I had been avoiding hit me. Adam had a mistress. I tried to push it away. This was Adam, my Adam, the man who held my hand through 22 hours of labor, the guy who brought me flowers on random Thursdays. He wouldn't cheat.
But the doubt was eating at me.
I couldn't eat or sleep, and I'd lie awake, listening to his steady breathing, wondering if he was dreaming of her. One sleepless night, I found myself scrolling through Facebook and saw a familiar name, Eric Johnson. We went to high school together, and I remembered he became a private investigator. Before I could change my mind, I sent him a message. We met at a coffee shop the next day. I took a deep breath and told him everything: the receipt, Adam's behavior, my suspicions. Eric listened carefully, his expression calm. He agreed to take the case. As I watched him leave, I felt both relieved and scared. Soon, I'd have answers, but did I really want them? The next 5 weeks were the hardest of my life. I went through the motions, smiling at patients, helping Amanda with her homework, making small talk with Adam over dinner. But inside, I was falling apart. I was a wreck. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped, thinking it was Eric with news. Every time Adam came home late, I searched his face for signs of guilt. Every time Amanda mentioned her dad, I wondered if she knew something I didn't. "Are you okay, Mom?" Amanda asked one evening, noticing me staring blankly at the wall. "You seem off." I forced a smile. "Just tired, sweetie. Lots of clients this week." She didn't seem convinced, but she let it go. I felt a stab of guilt for lying to her. What could I say? "Your dad might be cheating, and I've hired someone to follow him." Adam, meanwhile, acted like nothing was wrong. Whoever or whatever was keeping him busy, he didn't seem to notice my distress. Part of me was relieved, and part of me was furious that he was so blind to my pain. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. I was between clients when my phone buzzed, and Eric's name flashed on the screen. My heart raced. "Mary, can we meet?" His voice was calm, giving nothing away. We agreed to meet at the same coffee shop in an hour. The rest of my workday was a blur. I went through the motions, but my mind was elsewhere. When I arrived, Eric was already there, a thick manila envelope on the table in front of him. My stomach dropped at the sight. "Mary," he said, pushing the envelope towards me. "It's all in here: photos, dates, places." "I'm sorry, but your suspicions were right." With shaking hands, I opened the envelope. The first photo felt like a punch in the gut. It was Adam, my Adam, with his arms around a younger woman. They were laughing, looking into each other's eyes with clear affection. "Who is she?" I managed to ask. "Amy Ryan," Eric replied. "She's 29, works at Adam's company. She's the director's daughter." I flipped through more photos: Adam and Amy at restaurants, walking in the park, getting on a yacht. Each photo was like a fresh wound. "They've been seeing each other for over a year," Eric continued. "It's serious. They've even talked about a future together." I nodded, numb, barely processing his words. Then I gasped. One photo showed Adam and Amy at a cafe, but they weren't alone. Sitting with them, laughing and smiling, was Amanda. "No," I whispered. It can't be. I'm sorry, Mary, Eric said gently. But Amanda knows. She's met them several times. Those weekends she said she was with friends? She was with them on Amy's yacht. There's more. Adam and Amy have been buying Amanda expensive gifts, designer clothes, jewelry. I think they're trying to buy her silence. I don't remember the drive home. Thankfully, the house was empty when I got there. I moved without thinking, packing a small suitcase with clothes and essentials. I couldn't stay here. I couldn't face Adam or Amanda. I checked into a hotel across town, my mind still spinning. Once in my room, I called my boss at the clinic and took 3 weeks off unpaid, saying it was a family emergency. I turned off my phone and collapsed onto the bed. The envelope on the bedside table seemed to mock me. I couldn't resist. I opened it again. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, those photos haunted me. Amanda smiling as she hugged Amy. Adam with his arm around both of them. My anger, which had been slowly building, finally boiled over. For years, I had been the understanding one, the peacemaker, the one who bent over backward to make everyone happy. But I was done with that. My eyes landed on my laptop. Without thinking, I opened it and logged into my bank account. There it was, Amanda's college fund. I had saved for years, determined to give her the best education. It was my way of showing love, even when she pushed me away. Now, looking at that balance, all I could think about was how Amanda had betrayed me. She had lied to my face, spent time with that woman, and accepted her gifts. My daughter, who I had sacrificed so much for, had stabbed me in the back. Suddenly, a memory came to mind. Years ago, before Amanda was born, I had dreamed of opening my own cosmetology office. But life happened, marriage, a baby, mortgage payments. My dream got pushed aside.
I stared at the account balance.
It was enough to start over, to finally pursue my own dreams instead of everyone else's. You know what? I said aloud to the empty hotel room. Screw it. This money isn't for Amanda anymore, it's for me. The words hung in the air, both terrifying and freeing. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope. I had a future, even if it wasn't the one I had planned. Emotionally exhausted, I finally drifted off to sleep, my phone still turned off. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through the curtains. For a brief moment, I forgot everything. Then reality hit me again. I took a deep breath and turned on my phone. It immediately buzzed with notifications, missed calls from Adam and Amanda, voicemails, and text messages asking where I was and if I was okay. Their concern, which would have once touched my heart, now felt like poison. How dare they act like they cared now? I didn't bother listening to the voicemails or reading the texts. Instead, I got dressed, packed my bag, and checked out of the hotel. It was time to face the truth. The drive home felt unreal. Part of me wanted to keep driving, to disappear, and start fresh somewhere far away. But I pushed that thought aside. I needed closure. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw Adam's car and Amanda's bike. They were both home. Good. I walked inside, my heels echoing on the hardwood floor. Adam and Amanda rushed out of the living room, their faces showing a mix of relief and worry. Mary, where have you been? We've been so worried, Adam said, stepping forward to hug me. Amanda's voice followed, high-pitched with concern. Mom, are you okay? Why didn't you answer our calls? I stepped back, avoiding Adam's hug. A bitter laugh escaped me, stopping them both in their tracks. Without a word, I reached into my bag, pulled out the folder, and tossed it onto the coffee table. Photos spilled out. Adam and Amanda stared at the pictures, their faces turning pale. There they were, Adam with Amy, Amanda with them both. The silence was deafening. Adam was the first to speak, his shock quickly turning into anger. Mary, it's not what you think, he started, trying to sound calm. Amy and I are just friends. And Amanda, don't you dare drag Amanda into your lies. I cut him off, my voice cold as ice. Amanda jumped in, her eyes wide, pretending to be innocent. Mom, please, I can explain.
I only met her a few times.
I didn't know. I raised a hand to silence them both. Save it. I know everything. The yacht trips, the gifts, the dinners. Every lie. Every betrayal. They exchanged a look, realizing their excuses weren't working. Their mask slipped. Adam's face hardened, all fake guilt gone.
Fine, he said coldly.
You want the truth? Yes, I'm with Amy. She's young, beautiful, and rich. She makes me feel alive in a way you haven't in years. His words hit me like a slap, but I didn't flinch. I turned to Amanda, waiting for her response. She didn't disappoint. Amy is amazing, Mom, she said, her voice dripping with disdain. She's successful, stylish, fun, not strict, and boring like you. Each word cut deeper, but I wouldn't let them see me break. I see, I said, keeping my voice steady. Well, let me tell you both something. Adam, I want a divorce. I'll have my lawyer contact you. Adam's eyes widened, but before he could speak, I turned to Amanda. And you, young lady, can't forget about me paying for your college tuition. If Amy is so amazing, maybe she can cover it. Amanda's jaw dropped.
What?
You can't do that. That's my money. I've been counting on it. I want to get into my dream school. Amanda cried. You should have thought about that before you betrayed me, I replied, unmoved by her fake tears. Mom, please, she sobbed, her cool attitude falling apart. I'm sorry, I didn't mean what I said. Please forgive me, I need that money. But her earlier words kept echoing in my mind, strict, boring, worse than the other woman. Ignoring their pleas, I went upstairs and packed the rest of my things. When I came back down, suitcase in hand, Adam stood in my way. Mary, let's talk about this rationally, he said in a businesslike tone. The house, our assets. My lawyer will be in touch. I cut him off, pushing past him. I'm done talking to you. The next few weeks flew by in a blur. I found a small apartment and threw myself into the work of ending a 22-year marriage. I hired a lawyer and requested a mediator, determined to keep the divorce as simple as possible. The last thing I wanted was a long, messy court battle. Amanda called nonstop at first. When I didn't answer, she switched to texting and emailing, each message a mix of apologies and demands. I read them all, my heart breaking over and over, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. The wound was too fresh, the betrayal too deep. As time passed, I often found myself staring at my phone, Amanda's number on the screen. My finger would hover over the call button, torn between wanting to hear her voice and remembering her cruel words and secret meetings with Adam and Amy. Each time, I'd put the phone down. Weeks turned into months, and each meeting with Adam was a painful test of endurance. We sat across from each other in the cold, sterile atmosphere of the lawyers' offices. The man I once loved was now just another face across the table, all business, no warmth. One day, as I took my usual seat, the door opened, and Amanda walked in behind Adam. My heart clenched at the sight of her, but her expression stopped me in my tracks. She looked at me with a mix of condescension and triumph that knocked the breath out of me. Hello, Mother, she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. I hope you don't mind me joining today. Before I could respond, she continued, I just wanted to let you know I won't be needing your pathetic money after all. Amy has generously offered to pay for my education at any top college in the U.S. She paused, clearly enjoying the moment. Oh, and I'll be living with Dad and Amy from now on. We're going to be one big, happy family. I felt the eyes of our lawyers and the mediator on me, waiting for my reaction. But I was too tired, too drained to feel anything anymore. I simply shrugged and said, if that's what you want, Amanda, I hope you'll be happy, I said flatly. Something flickered in Amanda's eyes. Was it disappointment? Had she wanted a bigger reaction? But it disappeared quickly, replaced by her smug expression. The rest of the meeting blurred by with legal talk and dividing our assets. In the end, Adam and I split everything equally. The house would be sold, and we'd split the money. With my share of the house sale and the money I'd saved for Amanda's college fund, I had enough to start fresh. I found a small but cozy apartment, and after much thought, I decided to take a chance. I quit my job at the clinic and threw myself into creating a business plan for my own cosmetology office. It was both terrifying and exciting. All my years of experience and dreams I had put on hold, it was finally time to use them. Weeks of planning, renovations, and nervous anticipation followed, but eventually, Mary's beauty haven opened its doors. The first few months were a whirlwind of long hours, promoting on social media and slowly building a loyal client base. In quiet moments, usually late at night after a long day, I'd find myself scrolling through social media. I'd see Amanda's posts pictures of her in designer clothes, lounging on Amy's yacht, always smiling, always looking carefree. Each photo was like a stab to my heart. I wondered if she ever thought of me, if she missed me at all. When her 19th birthday came, I sent her a message wishing her well. I did the same for her high school graduation. Both went unanswered. A year had passed since the divorce, and life had settled into a new rhythm. My cosmetology office, once just a dream, had become a thriving reality. The steady stream of loyal clients from my clinic days, along with new faces, kept me busier than ever. I even hired 2 assistants to help with the workload. One sunny Thursday afternoon, as I finished up with a client, my phone buzzed. It was my cousin Angela. "Mary, you won't believe what I just saw," she said, her voice a mix of concern and disbelief. "I was at the Meadowbrook supermarket, the one on the other side of town, and I swear I saw Amanda working at the checkout." My heart skipped a beat. "Amanda? Are you sure?" "Positive." She looked different, thinner, tired, but it was definitely her. I thanked Angela and hung up, my mind racing. Amanda working at a supermarket? What happened to college? What about Amy's promise to pay for her education? That night, after closing my office, I did something I hadn't done in months. I looked up Amanda's social media. What I found shocked me. All of Amanda's glamorous photos with Adam and Amy were gone. No updates, no pictures of her going to college, nothing. Her once active profile was now a ghost town. For days, I struggled with what to do. Part of me wanted to rush to the supermarket and demand answers, but another part, the part still hurting from the betrayal, held me back. Finally, on my day off, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to the Meadowbrook supermarket, my heart pounding as I walked through the automatic doors. And there she was, Amanda, my baby girl, looking so different from the confident young woman who had sneered at me in the lawyer's office. She was thin, almost gaunt, with dark circles under her eyes as she scanned items at the checkout. Our eyes met, and for a second, I saw a flash of something: embarrassment, shame, but before I could figure it out, she looked away, her cheeks flushing. I hesitated, then slowly approached her checkout line. "Amanda," I said quietly. She glanced up, then quickly looked back down at the register. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice harsh and defensive. "I'd like to talk. Maybe we could get coffee after your shift," I offered. "I don't want to talk to you," she snapped, still not looking me in the eye. "Please leave." "Amanda, please," I tried again. "Leave," she said, louder this time, finally looking at me. Her eyes were blazing with a mix of anger, and something else. Was it fear? Shocked by her intensity, I stepped back. People were starting to stare. With a heavy heart, I left the supermarket, my hands shaking as I climbed into my car. As I drove home, my mind was spinning with questions. What had happened? Where were Adam and Amy? Why wasn't Amanda in college? For days, I waited for a call, a text, anything. But my phone stayed silent. I thought about going back to the supermarket, but Amanda's words echoed in my mind. "I don't want to talk to you." Just when I was starting to lose hope, my phone rang. An unknown number flashed on the screen. With a mix of nervousness and curiosity, I answered. "Mom." Amanda's voice came through, small and uncertain. "Can we meet, please?" We agreed to meet at a small cafe near my office. As I sat there waiting, my mind raced with possibilities. When Amanda finally walked in, my breath caught. She looked so different from the glowing, confident girl in those yacht photos, so much older than her years. We sat in silence for a long time, the weight of unsaid words hanging between us. Finally, Amanda spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry, Mom, for everything." And then, like a dam breaking, her story spilled out. At first, Living with Adam and Amy had been like a dream: designer clothes, yacht trips, and promises of a bright future.
But the honeymoon didn't last.
Amy started making comments, Amanda explained, her eyes staring down at her untouched coffee. Little comments about how much space I took up, how expensive I was, Amanda said. Then she told Dad I couldn't live with them anymore, and there was no money for college. I gasped. But your father, surely he didn't agree? Amanda's bitter laugh was enough of an answer. He said I was an adult now, that I needed to stand on my own 2 feet. They kicked me out, Mom. I had nowhere to go. Why didn't you call me? I asked, reaching for her hand across the table. She pulled away, tears in her eyes. I was so ashamed. And then I realized this must be how you felt when we betrayed you. I couldn't face you after that. My heart broke for her, though a small part of me whispered, good. Now she knows how it feels. I'm sharing a crappy apartment with a co-worker, Amanda continued. The supermarket job barely covers rent and food.
I feel so useless.
I wanted to hug her and tell her everything would be okay, but I knew it wasn't that simple. Amanda, I said gently, I'm sorry you're going through this, but you're right. You did betray me. Actions have consequences, and this is something you need to work through. We both cried, mourning the lost year, the broken trust, and the pain we had caused each other. As we parted, something had shifted between us. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. That night, I couldn't sleep, Amanda's story playing over and over in my mind. By morning, I had made a decision. I called her. I have a proposition for you, I said. I need an administrator at my office. The pay isn't great, but it's better than the supermarket, and maybe we can start rebuilding from there. There was a long pause before she replied, yes, I'd like that. Thank you, Mom. It's been 5 months since that day. Amanda now works at my office, learning the business from the ground up. She's saving for community college, determined to make it on her own this time. Our relationship is still a work in progress. There are good days and bad days, moments of connection and moments of tension. The trust we once had is being rebuilt, slowly but surely, one day at a time. As I watch Amanda greet a client with a warm smile, I feel a glimmer of hope. We aren't the same people we were before the betrayal, the divorce, the year of silence, but maybe, just maybe, we can become something new, something stronger.
I'm Linda. My first job after college was as a lawyer's assistant at a trading company. It was always busy, with phones ringing nonstop. I loved the fast pace, it kept me alert. While I was still learning my way around, I met Jeremy. He worked in the purchasing department, close to our legal offices. I saw him arguing on the phone about a delayed shipment. After hanging up, he saw me watching and said, "Suppliers," rolling his eyes. "Tough day?" I asked with a smile. "Every day is a battlefield here," he replied. "You knew." "Yeah, I just started this week. I'm Linda." "Jeremy, welcome to the madness. Don't let the chaos scare you off." We started having lunch together because it was easier to navigate the large cafeteria with someone who knew the place. Jeremy was easy to talk to, had a sharp wit, and was honest about his opinions. One lunch turned into many, and soon we were having after-work drinks. Our conversations moved from work stuff to more personal topics. I learned he was an only child, adored by his mother, but nagged for not living up to his potential. "You haven't met my mom yet, but brace yourself when you do," Jeremy warned one evening. "She has this idea of the perfect woman, and trust me, no one's good enough." Our friendship soon turned romantic. After a year of dating, Jeremy proposed. The wedding was simple but perfect for us. We bought an apartment together with my grandma's savings. Life with Jeremy was mostly smooth, with occasional arguments about small things like who forgot to buy milk or whose turn it was to clean. Nothing too serious, just normal couple stuff. Then, one day, everything felt different. I was always tired, and even the smell of coffee, which I loved, made me nauseous. One morning, struggling to get out of bed, I decided enough was enough. I booked an appointment with my doctor, thinking I might have the flu. While I sat in the waiting room, Flipping through a magazine without really reading it, my name was finally called. Dr. Maria was always straightforward. After a few questions and tests, she gave me the news. "Well, Linda, congratulations are in order. You're pregnant." "Pregnant?" I repeated, feeling shocked. "Are you sure?" "Quite sure," Dr. Maria smiled, handing me the test results. "But you need to be careful. Your body is showing some warning signs. Nothing too scary, but you need rest and less stress." I nodded, my mind racing. Pregnant, how would Jeremy react? I couldn't tell him over the phone. This needed to be face to face. When I got home that evening, I found Jeremy on the couch, eyes on his phone. "Jeremy, we need to talk," I said, my voice shaky. "I went to the doctor today. We're going to have a baby." Jeremy's face changed. It wasn't the reaction I had hoped for. "A baby, Linda? It's not great timing. We haven't even traveled like we talked about. And a baby is a huge change." I felt a pain in my heart. "I know it's unexpected, but it's also kind of amazing, right? We're going to be parents." Jeremy ran his hands through his hair, a sign he was stressed. "I don't know, Linda. It's too much, too soon." "Too soon for a family with me?" I asked, feeling hurt. "No, that's not what I mean. I just thought we'd have more time, just us two." The conversation went in circles, Jeremy saying it was bad timing, and me trying to highlight the positive. By the end, Jeremy had shut down, and I was left feeling alone with news that should have brought us together but was pushing us apart. The next day, I spoke to my boss, Mr. James. I needed some accommodations because of the doctor's orders. "Mr. James, I need to ask for a change. I'm pregnant, and there are some complications. Could I possibly work from home?" Mr. James, who was always more understanding than I gave him credit for, didn't hesitate. "Of course, Linda. We'll set up everything you need at home. Take care of yourself and the little one." Going home that day, I hoped Jeremy had softened a bit. But when I told him about the remote work arrangement, his reaction was cold. "So you're just going to be home now? What about all the plans we had? I thought you'd be happy." "I found a way to keep the stress down," I said, trying to stay calm. "Linda, you're not listening. I said it's too soon for all this," Jeremy snapped back. I went to bed early that night, feeling the distance between us grow. As I lay there, the reality of my situation sank in. This journey was going to be tougher than I thought. The air in our apartment felt heavier every day, like a cloud hung over us even if the sun was shining outside. Jeremy's affection seemed to fade quickly. He became more distant and irritated by the small changes in my life because of the pregnancy. He said he felt neglected, like he was second to my health and the baby's needs. His mom, Mrs. Richard, was no help either. She called one afternoon, her voice as cold as winter. "Linda, this child is not the right time. You should be focusing on supporting Jeremy, not dragging him into fatherhood." I clenched the phone tighter, fighting back tears. "It's not like I planned this by myself, Mrs. Richard. It's our child, not just mine." "There are options, you know. You're choosing the most selfish one," she said, her words cutting deep. As if that wasn't enough, Jeremy's behavior changed even more. His cologne was masked by another scent, a woman's perfume, unfamiliar and sweet, clinging to his clothes. The first time I smelled it, I convinced myself it was a mix-up at the dry cleaner. But then it happened again and again. He also started staying out late, mumbling about needing to catch up on work, and his weekends were suddenly filled with business trips. It was too much to be a coincidence. I held my tongue, not wanting to believe the worst, but doubt had been planted. That Saturday, when Jeremy mentioned another business trip, I reached out to Eric, an old classmate who now worked as a detective. We met at a small cafe where we could talk privately. Eric slid a folder across the table to me. "I got what you asked for, Linda. Are you sure you want to see this?" I nodded, unable to speak, and opened the folder. The photos were clear and unmistakable. There was Jeremy, and with him another woman. I recognized her from his office, a new hire he had mentioned in passing. Linda, I'm sorry, Eric said, his voice low. There's video too, it's consistent. My heart sank to my feet. Thanks, Eric, I needed to know. I went home feeling numb, carrying the folder as if it were made of lead. As I turned the key in the lock, the door swung open. Mrs. Richards stood there, her face twisted in disapproval. I came to see how you are. Jeremy said he's worried about you all alone here. Her eyes darted around suspiciously. I know about Jeremy. He's not on a business trip. He's with someone else, I said. She scoffed, her defense quick and sharp. You're driving him away, always sick, complaining, needing things. What man wants that? That's no excuse for cheating, I shot back, anger rising. And do you think having his baby will fix things? No one in the family wants this child, Linda, only you. Her words were like a physical blow. Get out, I said, my voice trembling. She threw her hands up and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The silence afterward was deafening. I sat on the couch, feeling numb and hollow. 30 minutes felt like an eternity, each second passing with heavy pain echoing the throbbing in my heart. My mind was racing, but a dreadful resolve settled over me. I had to face Jeremy and see the truth with my own eyes. Eric had given me all the details I needed, the Grandview Hotel, room 546. His voice was filled with reluctant professionalism. My hands shook slightly as I parked the car and walked into the hotel lobby, my stomach in knots. I took the elevator, my heart pounding in my ears with each floor it passed. When the doors opened, I stepped out into a brightly lit hallway that felt too cheery for what I was about to do. Room 546 was just down the hall. As I approached, I could hear laughter and the clinking of glasses. My hand trembled as I knocked on the door. Room service must be here with the champagne. I heard a woman's voice, chirpy and carefree. After a few seconds that felt like hours, the door swung open. Jeremy looked out, his expression changing from anticipation to shock in an instant. Linda, how did you find? I know everything, Jeremy, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Without waiting for an invitation, I pushed past him into the room. The sight that greeted me was like a slap. There she was, his mistress, half-dressed and scrambling to cover up, as if modesty meant anything now. Jeremy recovered from his initial shock, and his face hardened. Why are you here, Linda? To spy on me? To beg? No, Jeremy. I'm here to see the truth, I replied, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I echoed in disbelief, feeling a bitter laugh rise in my throat. I came for the truth, not that you'd know anything about that. He scoffed, stepping closer. You want the truth. Here it is. I'm not happy with you anymore. You're always so wrapped up in yourself and this baby. His mistress, now somewhat dressed, smirked and added, maybe if you paid more attention to him, he wouldn't be with me. Her words stung, but it was his agreement, the nod he gave her, that twisted the knife deeper. Yeah, you should be thanking us. We're just waiting for your baby to be born, then I can finally move on properly. The room spun around me, and a sharp pain stabbed through my abdomen. I doubled over, gasping, the shock and pain mingling into a nauseating swirl. Jeremy, I think something's wrong, I managed to say, my voice a whisper of desperation. Please call an ambulance. He and his mistress exchanged a quick, dismissive glance, then he turned back to me. You're probably just overreacting, like always. They dressed quickly, stepping over me as if I were just another obstacle in their path. The last thing I saw before darkness claimed me was the closing door, its click echoing ominously in the cold, empty room. I woke up to the gentle yet urgent voice of a maid trying to rouse me. Ma'am, can you hear me? Her face swam into view as I blinked away the darkness clouding my vision. The pain was still there, a dull ache that seemed to echo through my entire body. Where am I? My voice sounded hoarse, foreign even to my own ears. You're still in the hotel room, dear. I found you on the floor. I'm calling an ambulance now." True to her word, the next thing I knew, I was being wheeled through the emergency room. The hospital lights were harsh, blinding, as nurses and doctors swarmed around me, their voices a cacophony of concern that I could barely comprehend. They asked questions, too many questions, but all I could think about was the betrayal and the pain. Jeremy never showed up at the hospital, nor did his mother. Calls went unanswered, their silence more painful than any physical wound. By the time the doctor came with the news that I had lost the baby, the grief was so heavy, so overwhelming, it was all-consuming. I could barely stop myself from screaming. The loss was not just a personal tragedy. It felt like an injustice, one that Jeremy, his mistress, and his mother had all played a part in. They had abandoned me, leaving me alone at my most vulnerable. Bitterness and anger brewed inside me like a storm. After what felt like an eternity, the hospital discharged me. I drove straight to our apartment and began packing Jeremy's things. Each shirt I folded, each sock I threw into the box, felt like cutting ties. With his belongings piled in the trunk of my car, I drove to Mrs. Richards' house. I didn't bother with niceties. I unloaded his things right in the driveway, letting them fall wherever they may. I didn't knock, I just walked in. Mrs. Richard was sitting in the living room, a look of resignation on her face. She knew why I was there. "Linda," she started, her tone weary, "you should just leave. Take what dignity you have left." Dignity? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think I came here for a lecture on dignity from you? He's my son. I stand by him, and he will be better off without you," she said bluntly. "He has excellent lawyers. You'll only embarrass yourself." At that, something snapped inside me. Do you even care that your grandchild is gone? That your son left me alone in a hotel room to lose his child? Her eyes flickered away, unable to meet mine. "It's a tough situation. It's done, Linda." I stepped closer, my voice low and steady. "How do you feel as a mother, knowing what happened? Knowing your grandchild was lost?" She didn't answer, just looked away, a crack in her composed facade. "I will see your son in court," I said, the words heavy with promise. "You can tell him that." Turning on my heel, I left her sitting there alone with the weight of her choices. As I walked back to my car, the cool air felt sharp against my skin, but my path had never been clearer. I would fight, not just for me, but for the life that was lost and for the truth that needed to see the light of day. Stepping into the courthouse, I felt every eye on me, or maybe it was just the weight of what was about to happen pressing down. My best friend from college, Lauren, was right beside me. She had become a shark in the courtroom, known for tearing apart even the slickest defense. When I told Lauren everything, she didn't hesitate. "I've got this, Linda, and don't worry about the fees. This one's on me," she said, her voice fierce and reassuring. We sat at our table, papers neatly arranged, evidence ready. Across from us, Jeremy and his mistress looked confident, a smugness that irked me. As the proceedings began, their lawyer painted a picture of me as unstable, broken by grief and fabricating stories. "The plaintiff has suffered immense emotional distress, yes, which has led to these wild accusations. There is no substantial evidence of any affair or wrongdoing on my client's part." When it was our turn, Lauren stood, her presence commanding the room. "Your Honor, not only do we have substantial evidence, but we also have testimony that will corroborate everything my client has claimed." She presented the photos first, clear and undeniable proof of the affair, passed around for the judge and eventually to the opposing counsel, who looked visibly shaken as they viewed them. Next, Lauren played the video from the hotel. The room fell silent as the scene played out. I entered the hotel, then Jeremy and his mistress, laughing and hugging, left the hotel without a hint of concern. "But that's not all," Lauren continued. She called the maid who found me to the stand. Her testimony was simple but powerful. "I found her on the floor, unconscious. They were gone. She could have died." Jeremy's face went white, and his mistress couldn't sit still, her leg bouncing nervously. When they were given a chance to respond, Jeremy stood up, his voice shaky. This isn't how it looks. We were just scared and confused." "Scared? So you leave your pregnant wife unconscious on the floor?" Lauren shot back, her tone icy. The judge took everything into consideration, the weight of the evidence, the testimonies. After what felt like a lifetime, he spoke. "I find in favor of the plaintiff, Linda Richard. The evidence of infidelity and negligence is overwhelming. I am granting a 60/40th division of all marital assets, as well as financial compensation for the emotional distress caused by the actions of the defendants." As we walked out of the courtroom, Lauren elbowed me gently, a victorious glint in her eye. "How's that for justice?" I managed a small smile, feeling a mix of relief and sorrow. "Thanks, Lauren. I couldn't have done this without you." Life had been limping back to normal after the courtroom drama. The weight of the trial lifted, but the scars remained. Every day was a step forward, a move towards healing, with Lauren's support and my determination guiding me through the difficult journey ahead. I bought a small apartment, and every new piece of furniture, every picture I hung, was a step away from my past torment. The only shadow over my fresh start was seeing Jeremy and his mistress at work, a constant reminder of the betrayal. One afternoon, as I was sorting through some legal briefs, my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in a while. It was Jeremy's mother, Mrs. Richard. "Linda, could we meet? I need to talk to you." Her voice trembled over the phone. I hesitated, memories of our last encounter flashing through my mind. "Why should I meet you, Mrs. Richard?" "It's about Jeremy and your company. Please, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." Curiosity piqued, and a bit of old loyalty to the company that had stood by me, I agreed. We met at a small cafe away from prying eyes. She looked worn, her eyes rimmed with red, as if she had been crying. "Jeremy, he's not the boy I raised anymore," she started, not meeting my eyes. "He and that woman, they're planning to cheat the company, sell off assets, and they want to force me out of my home." Her words hung heavy between us. I was still processing when she grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Please, you're the only one I can trust to stop this." The plea in her eyes was real, but so was my reluctance. "Mrs. Richard, your family drama is not my business anymore." "It's not just family, Linda, it's your company too. They're planning something big. It could ruin everything." Her urgency struck a chord. I was, after all, part of that company. It had given me a chance when I was just a college grad, and many of my colleagues were like family. "All right, I'll look into it." I conceded, more for the company than for her. Back at work, I started digging. I quietly pulled records and contracts, tracing the trail of transactions Jeremy and his mistress were involved in. It didn't take long to spot irregularities. The numbers didn't add up. Goods were being purchased at inflated prices far above market value. Armed with evidence, I made my way to the director's office. Laying the documents on his desk, I watched his eyes narrow as he scanned the evidence. "This is serious," Mr. James stated flatly, looking up at me. "I'll handle this from here. Thank you, Linda. You may have just saved this company from a significant loss." Leaving his office, I felt a mix of relief and anticipation. Walking past Jeremy and his mistress, I caught snippets of their mocking laughter, but I knew I had done the right thing. My fresh start was not just about moving on from the past, but also standing up for what was right. As the days passed, the company took swift action. Jeremy and his mistress were investigated, and the fraudulent activities were halted. The company was saved from a major financial blow, and I felt a sense of justice. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about protecting the place and people who had supported me. In my new apartment, I continued to build my life. Each day brought a little more peace, and with each step forward, I felt stronger. The betrayal and loss were still there, but they no longer defined me. I was moving on, creating a new chapter in my life, and for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. I couldn't help but smile to myself. Justice had a way of finding its path, no matter how twisted the road might be. After exposing Jeremy and his mistress, a full-scale investigation rippled through the company. As it unfolded, I was often called to testify, detailing every discrepancy and irregular transaction I had uncovered. The courtroom once again became a familiar setting, but this time I stood confidently, bolstered by the truth and the mountains of evidence that supported our claims. The legal battles were intense and draining. Jeremy and his mistress faced the consequences head-on. The company, having suffered significant potential losses, pursued justice relentlessly, culminating in a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against them. The verdict was as expected, guilty. The court's decision barred them from holding any senior positions in the future, a fitting end to their corporate misdeeds. Amidst the chaos, my own career took a surprising but welcome turn. The company recognized my efforts and promoted me to a senior lawyer, an acknowledgement that came with a significant reward. One quiet afternoon, as I was organizing files in my new office, a spacious room with a view of the city's skyline, my phone rang. The screen displayed a number I hadn't seen in a long while. Mrs. Richard. Linda, it's me. Her voice came through, tinged with humility, a stark contrast to our last encounters. I wanted to thank you for saving my home from being sold out from under me. Her gratitude was genuine, and despite everything, I felt a twinge of sympathy for her. You're welcome. I did what I felt was right, I replied. There was a pause, a breath of silence before she added, I was wrong about you, Linda, so very wrong. I used to think you didn't deserve my son, but I've come to realize it was he who didn't deserve you. Her words, unexpected and raw, took me by surprise. Thank you for saying that. It means more than you might know. Could we meet? I'd like to apologize properly, face to face, she suggested, a hint of hope in her tone. I considered her request. All right, Mrs. Richard, let's meet. We decided on a quiet cafe, neutral ground for what was to be a frank conversation. Sitting across from her, I saw the changes the months had wrought on her. Gone was the haughty demeanor, replaced by a somber reflectiveness. Linda, I'm sorry for everything. I was blinded by my own expectations, my own desires for Jeremy, she began, her voice trembling slightly. I nodded, allowing her to continue. I know it wasn't easy for you, and I made it harder. I see now that you did what was right, not just for you, but for everyone involved. Her honesty was disarming. Thank you for your apology. It's taken a lot to get here, but I appreciate it. We talked for a while, sharing thoughts and feelings that had been bottled up for too long. By the end of our conversation, there was a sense of closure. While the past couldn't be changed, there was a mutual understanding and respect that hadn't been there before. As I left the cafe, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Life had thrown many challenges my way, but I had faced them head-on and emerged stronger. The future, once clouded with uncertainty, now seemed bright and full of possibilities. With my career on track and personal demons addressed, I was ready to embrace whatever came next. I couldn't see the truth. You were always the stronger person, and I admire that deeply now, she confessed, not meeting my eyes. It's been a tough journey for us all, I acknowledged, my voice steady. But your apology is accepted, Mrs. Richard. We talked more about life and lessons learned. It was clear that we wouldn't be friends, but there was a mutual respect between us, a thin thread connecting our shared history. Leaving the cafe, I felt like her words had lifted some of the shadows of the past. I walked back to my office, passing the now empty desks of Jeremy and his mistress, a reminder of the bullet dodged. Their laughter no longer echoed through the halls. Instead, my own steps sounded a steady beat towards the future. Life was pretty simple for me. My name is Nickel, and at 28, you'd usually find me in the local library. It wasn't exciting or glamorous, but it was my life. The books were my friends, and the dusty shelves were where I felt at home. I wasn't one to seek attention. I was happy to stay in the background. I lived in a small town where everyone knew each other's business. My daily routine was always the same. Wake up, go to work, and then return to my small apartment filled with secondhand furniture and a pile of books. I didn't have much of a social life, and I told myself I was okay with that. Then, one day, Peter walked into the library. It seemed like an ordinary day, but it wasn't. He was looking for a book and said he wanted something different. His smile was warm, and his voice felt like sunshine breaking through the clouds. "Hey, could you help me find a book? I'm feeling adventurous," he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Sure, what kind of book are you interested in?" I asked, adjusting my glasses and trying not to get too caught up in his gaze. "I don't know. Surprise me," he replied with a grin, as if he enjoyed the little challenge he had given me. That was the start of everything. We began talking regularly. At first, it was just about books, but soon our conversations moved beyond the pages and into our lives. Peter was different. He really listened, and it made me feel seen for the first time in a long while. One day, he came in looking more determined than usual. "You know, Nickel, you're the most interesting person I've met in this town. Why do you hide in here all day?" he asked, leaning on the counter with a playful look in his eyes. I laughed, a sound that even surprised me. "Well, where else would I go? This town isn't exactly full of excitement." Peter's response was quick. "Maybe you just need someone to explore it with. How about dinner tonight? My treat." I hesitated, not used to this kind of attention. "I don't know, Peter." "Come on, what's the worst that could happen? You spend an evening with a guy who likes your book recommendations. Plus, I promise to make it worth your while. You can show me this hidden gem of a town," he said, his confidence contagious. Against my better judgment, I found myself agreeing. "Okay, sure, but no fancy places. I don't do well with all that fuss." "Deal," Peter said, his smile lighting up the room. "I'll pick you up at 9. Wear something comfortable," Peter said. That night changed everything. Even though I'd lived in this town my whole life, Peter showed me places I'd never seen. He made me laugh, a real, deep laugh I didn't even know I had in me. He listened to my stories, my dreams, and my fears, never once making me feel small or unimportant. As we walked back to my apartment, he stopped and looked at me with a serious expression. "Nickel, I know we've just met, but there's something about you. You're different from anyone I've ever known. You're real, and that's rare in a world full of fakes." I didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken to me like that before. "Peter," I started, but he gently placed a finger on my lips. "You don't have to say anything. Just know that I see you, Nickel. I see who you are, and I like what I see." Peter had always been the bright spot in my day, making everything seem better with his kindness and care. He made me feel seen, calling me beautiful, kind, and smart things I didn't really believe about myself. His warmth made the idea of forever seem not just possible, but something I wanted. When he asked me to marry him, it felt like a dream. "Marry me, Nickel. I can't imagine my life without you," he said, his eyes full of sincerity. I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I breathed out, feeling a mix of excitement and disbelief. But before we could dive into wedding planning, there was one important step left: meeting his parents. Peter gave me a heads up, a sort of warning. "My folks have pretty high standards for who I bring home, but don't worry. They're going to love you once they see how amazing you are," he assured me, though his words did little to calm my nerves. I was a mess before the meeting, tearing through my closet for something that looked modest yet dignified. It felt impossible to find the right outfit. Peter, on the other hand, was completely calm, almost as if the outcome of the meeting didn't bother him at all. "You're overthinking it, Nickel. Just wear what you're comfortable in," he said casually, which only made me more nervous. The day finally came, and I picked out a simple blue dress that I hoped was just right. As we drove to his parents' house, Peter seemed more interested in the music on the radio than the fact that I was about to meet his parents. "Are you sure they're going to like me?" I asked, needing some reassurance. They'll come around. Just be yourself," Peter said, glancing at me briefly before focusing back on the road. His relaxed attitude felt out of place compared to the nervousness I was feeling. As we walked up to the door of Peter's childhood home, my heart was racing. His earlier warnings played in my mind, making me imagine the judgment I might face. The door opened, and Peter's parents greeted us with expressions that were hard to read. The dinner that followed felt like a minefield. Peter's parents asked me questions that seemed more like an interrogation than a casual chat. "So, Nickel, Peter tells us you work at a library. Do you see yourself doing that long term?" his father asked, his tone suggesting he didn't think much of my job. I struggled to find the right words, trying to sound confident. "I love working there. It's fulfilling in a way I can't quite describe," I said, hoping my enthusiasm would win them over. Peter stayed unusually quiet throughout the dinner, offering little support as I faced the barrage of questions and subtle criticisms. It felt like I was on my own, with Peter just watching from the sidelines. On the drive home, the silence in the car was heavy. I couldn't help but feel disappointed, not just in how the evening went, but in Peter's lack of support. "I thought you said they'd warm up to me," I finally said, my voice tinged with hurt. Peter shrugged, a gesture that only frustrated me more. "Give it time, Nickel. They just need to get to know you better," he said, but his words didn't make me feel any better. After a few more dinners that felt like interrogations, it became clear that Peter's parents weren't my biggest fans. They seemed to see me as some kind of gold digger, which couldn't have been further from the truth. I was never interested in Peter for his money. Truth is, I never cared about that at all. I didn't really know much about it until he mentioned it one evening. "My parents are a bit old-fashioned," he said. "They worry about strange things like money and status." One night, Peter came home looking more serious than usual. "Babe, we need to talk," he said, avoiding eye contact. That's when I knew something was wrong. "What's wrong?" I asked, feeling a knot in my stomach. "It's my parents," he started, finally looking at me. "They're insisting we sign a prenup." "A prenup?" The word felt strange and bitter. "Peter, you know I don't care about your money, right?" He sighed, running his hands through his hair. "I know, and I don't care about it either, not when it comes to us. But they're really pushing for it. They think it'll protect both of us or something." I was hurt, no doubt about it. It felt like his parents were already expecting us to fail. But I loved Peter more than I cared about their approval or some silly agreement. "Fine," I said, sharper than I meant to. "Let's sign it and get it over with. Your money, my money, whatever. I just want you." Peter looked relieved, and part of me resented that. "Thank you, babe. I hate this as much as you do, but it's just a piece of paper. It won't change anything between us." So we signed it. Some lawyer his parents knew drew it up, making sure neither of us could touch the other's stuff if things went bad. It felt like we were signing a statement of distrust before we even began, but I pushed those thoughts aside. I was in love, and love was supposed to conquer all, right? Our wedding was simple, just the way I wanted: close friends, an intimate ceremony, and a promise of forever. I moved into Peter's place soon after. It was a nice house, not too fancy, but it felt a world away from my old apartment. Peter's parents lived nearby, and I soon realized that meant surprise visits that seemed more about checking up on me than anything else. Life with Peter started off like a fairy tale, but it didn't take long for the shine to wear off, revealing the harsh reality underneath. The change wasn't sudden, but the signs were there, slowly chipping away at what we had built. His mother, Julia, was the first crack in our perfect picture. She would drop by unannounced, her eyes scanning the house like she was taking inventory. "Remember, this is Peter's house. Everything here is his," she'd say. I tried to stay calm and replied, "I know, Julia, I'm not here for your son's things. I love him." She scoffed, Love doesn't pay the bills, dear. Just remember, if you ever leave, you leave with what you came with nothing. One day, she walked around the house, pointing out every piece of furniture, every appliance, every little item that belonged to Peter. See this couch? It's Peter's. That painting? Also Peter's. Just remember, if things go south, you have no claim to any of it, she said with a sickly sweet tone, as if she enjoyed putting me in my place. Peter's father, Frank, wasn't any better. He and Julia acted like they owned our house. When they visited, they would demand coffee as soon as they walked in, then complain that it was too weak or too strong. They'd sit in front of the TV, expecting me to serve them. Get us some chips, will you? And maybe wash those clothes piling up in the corner while you're at it, Frank would say without even looking at me. The worst part was that Peter never defended me. He'd laugh along with them, adding his own jabs. Yeah, she's still learning how to do things right around here. Give her time, he'd say. I felt like I was losing my mind. This wasn't the man I married. This was someone else, someone cruel and dismissive. Do you even hear yourself? How can you let them treat me like this? I'd confront Peter after his parents left. Babe, they're just set in their ways. You know how old people are, he'd shrug it off, making it seem like I was overreacting. They don't mean anything by it. Plus, you know we're on their dime. Can't bite the hand that feeds, right? That line felt like a slap in the face. So that was it. I was just the freeloader, the girl who married into their little empire and had to play by their rules or get out. My job at the library, which I loved, was a joke to them, just another reason for them to look down on me. The days blurred together, each one just like the last, until one ordinary Thursday when everything changed. I was at work shelving books when I felt a sharp pain in my stomach, doubling me over. This wasn't just stress, it was something more, something worse. Then, everything went black. I knew I was in the hospital. The smell of antiseptic made that clear. Lying in that bed, I couldn't help but feel like I'd hit rock bottom. I was alone, in pain, and not a single message or call from Peter. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, there was a knock on the door, and in walked someone I never expected. Nickel David? The man at the door was dressed in a suit and holding a briefcase, looking completely out of place in the sterile hospital room. Yeah, that's me. Who are you? My voice was weak, tired from the pain and all the disappointment. I'm Adam Smith, a notary. I have something important to discuss with you, he said formally, but there was something in his eyes that made me want to listen. I motioned for him to go on, curious despite everything. It's about your great-uncle, Larry David. He passed away recently, and, well, you're his sole heir, Nicole. He left you an inheritance. The words didn't make sense at first. Are you sure you've got the right person? I haven't seen him in 14 years. Adam nodded. Quite sure. He was a private man, but he always remembered you and wanted to make sure you were taken care of. Lying there, feeling a mix of confusion and anticipation, I watched as the notary got ready to explain the details of my great-uncle's will. He cleared his throat, opened his briefcase, and laid out the documents in front of him. Nickel, your great-uncle was a man of considerable wealth. He left you quite an inheritance. We're not just talking about cash, though there's plenty of that $35 million, to be exact. Adam began, his voice calm and steady. I blinked, trying to grasp what he was saying. $35 million? I echoed, my voice trembling. That's right, he continued, unfazed by my shock. But there's more. You're also inheriting shares in several large companies. These aren't small investments. They're significant stakes in some of the most stable and profitable firms out there. My mind was racing, trying to understand the enormity of what he was saying. Owning parts of companies I'd only heard about on the news felt like a dream. And then there's the property, Adam added, flipping through the papers. An old, large house in one of the most prestigious areas. It's not just any house, Nicole. It's a mansion with acres of land and a lot of history, and it's all yours now. I tried to picture the house, the kind you only see in movies. It was overwhelming, to say the least. And don't forget about the antique car, Adam added with a slight smile, as if he knew how I'd react. It's a classic, fully restored, and in perfect condition. A collector's dream. I couldn't help but chuckle at how surreal it all felt. An antique car, too. What am I going to do with that? I barely drive as it is. Adam's smile grew. Well, it's yours now. Maybe you'll take it for a drive occasionally. And there's also the furniture and paintings in the house, genuine antiques, some of them centuries old. Your great-uncle had a taste for the finer things in life. The room suddenly felt smaller and the air thicker as I tried to process everything he was telling me. So I've inherited a fortune, a company, a mansion, an antique car, and a collection of art and furniture. This is unbelievable. It's all yours, Nickel. Your great-uncle wanted to make sure you were well taken care of. He must have seen something special in you. Special? I didn't feel special at all, especially lying in a hospital bed after the worst few months of my life. Yet here I was, suddenly a millionaire many times over, entrusted with a legacy I didn't even know existed. Thank you, Mr. Smith. This is a lot to take in. I don't even know where to start, I admitted, feeling a mix of gratitude, disbelief, and a huge sense of responsibility. We'll take it one step at a time, he assured me. I'm here to help you through the whole process. Right on cue, my phone buzzed, and Peter's name flashed on the screen for the first time in days. Ignoring it, I turned back to Adam. What happens now? We'll need to process some paperwork, but the inheritance is yours. Your life is about to change, Nickel. And change it did. After the unexpected windfall, Peter and his parents suddenly acted differently, as if they'd turned over a new leaf. Their daily visits to the hospital were like scenes from a sappy movie. Peter, who hadn't bothered to check on me before, now hovered constantly, adjusting my blanket with a concerned look. How are you feeling today, love? He'd ask, his voice dripping with sweetness that didn't reach his eyes. Peter's mother, Julia, was even more dramatic if that was possible. Darling, I'm going to make your favorite lasagna when you get home. Just you wait, she said with a wide smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. It was all too much, too sudden, but I played along, smiling weakly and thanking them for their care. Still, a nagging suspicion gnawed at me, telling me to look beyond their act. One day, after their usual visit, I gathered the strength to slip out of bed and quietly follow them. My heart pounded with every step as I hid behind a corner, listening to them when they thought no one was around. The first thing I heard was their laughter, harsh and jarring. Can you believe how easy this is? She's so gullible, she's eating right out of our hands, Peter said, a chuckle escaping his lips. Julia's voice was sharper, more calculating. Make sure she has a baby with you, Peter. Once that happens, she'll never be able to leave us. Then we'll have a real grip on her and her fortune. Their cruel words didn't shock me. Disappointment, yes, but surprise? Not at all. They had shown their true colors, and I was done pretending they were different. Silently, I returned to my hospital bed, their mocking words fueling a fire inside me. They saw me as nothing more than a way to secure their future, but I wasn't going to play along with their plan, not anymore. As I lay in that bed, a clear and firm plan began to take shape in my mind. I was going to turn the tables on Peter and his scheming family. They thought I was weak, but they were about to see just how wrong they were. When I was discharged and returned to the house, I felt like a stranger in what was supposed to be my home. Peter and his parents were there waiting, their faces full of fake concern and eagerness. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension and expectation. Peter was the first to break the silence. "Babe, you're home. How are you feeling? We've been so worried about you," he said, his voice sweet but with a hint of greed beneath it. Ignoring the lump in my throat, I looked him in the eyes, seeing the man I once thought I knew. "I'm feeling better, thanks, but we need to talk, all of us." I spoke, my voice steady even though I was churning inside. "Julia, ever the actress, stepped forward, her hands clasped like she was praying. "Of course, dear, we're here for you, whatever you need." It was now or never. I took a deep breath and laid it all out. "I'm filing for divorce, Peter. And before you ask, no, you won't see a dime of my inheritance." The room fell silent, as if all the air had been sucked out. Peter's face turned pale, his calm facade cracking to reveal the panic underneath. "Divorce? But why? I thought we were happy," he stammered. "Happy?" I echoed, the word leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. "You, your mom, and your dad have made my life miserable. You've treated me like a servant, not a wife. And now, suddenly, you care about me because I'm worth something to you." Peter struggled to find words, but Julia quickly jumped in. "This is nonsense. We've always treated you like family. You're imagining things, dear." I rolled my eyes and pulled the prenuptial agreement from my bag, waving it in front of them. "This is what saved me. You thought you could play me, but I'm not the naive girl you thought I was." Frank, who had been silent until now, finally spoke, his voice a mix of anger and defeat. "You'll regret this. We're your family." "No," I replied firmly, "you were never my family. A real family doesn't treat one of their own like dirt, and then suddenly act sweet when money's involved. I'm done here." Moving into my own place felt like a breath of fresh air. The apartment was small and cozy, a stark contrast to the life I'd left behind. It wasn't just a new home. It was my declaration of independence, my fresh start. The phone calls started almost immediately. Peter, his voice dripping with desperation, was the first. "Nickel, please, you've got to come back. We can work this out. I know we can." But his pleas fell on deaf ears. I was done, and no amount of begging would change that. "Peter, it's over. I'm not coming back. You need to accept that," I said firmly, leaving no room for negotiation. Not long after, Julia called, her tone a toxic mix of anger and guilt. "Ungrateful. After everything we've done for you, you owe us nickel. You're making a huge mistake." "Owe you for what, Julia? For making me feel like nothing more than a burden? No, I don't owe you anything. Goodbye." Hanging up on her felt like shedding a heavy weight, a final cut from the ties that had bound me to a life of misery. The divorce was a relief, a clean break from a past that had nearly consumed me. I heard about the fallout between Peter and his parents. The irony wasn't lost on me. The prenuptial agreement they insisted on was now tearing their family apart. With my great-uncle's inheritance securely in my name, I found a new sense of purpose and generosity. I donated a significant portion to charities that mattered to me, supporting causes that could make a real difference. But the bookstore became my true passion. It was a cozy haven for lovers of old and rare books, and it allowed me to reconnect with the world on my own terms. My journey hadn't been easy, filled with challenges and heartache, but standing in my bookstore, surrounded by countless stories, I knew I had found my happy ending. It wasn't just about moving on from Peter and his family's manipulation. It was about rediscovering who I was and what I loved. Here's to new beginnings, I toasted to myself one quiet evening after closing up shop. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to travel, filled with possibilities and the promise of newfound happiness.